We're about to break down some Mike Zimmer replacements here on Minnesota Vikings Now. Before we do that, though, I need you guys to subscribe. And it's not just me that needs it. It's really producer Jack. He has been threatened with his job. So if you want to help stimulate the economy, subscribe for free on Minnesota Vikings Now. Our goal is 2,000 subscribers, and we will be here, by the way, all season and off-season long, breaking down roster moves and maybe a coaching search for Minnesota. Tom Downey here for Minnesota Vikings Now by Chat Sports, and as you can tell by the headline of this video, it's all about Mike Zimmer and some potential replacements because, oh boy, you lose to the Lions, the winless Detroit Lions, by the way, 29-27, unacceptable. I think we're getting closer to firing Mike Zimmer. I believe that Zimmers Hot Seat right now is absolutely on fire. I think that after a loss to a bad Lions team in a season in which Minnesota has consistently found creative ways to lose football games, that I believe this is the beginning of the end for Zimmer as the Vikings head coach. So what do you think? Do you want the Vikings to fire Mike Zimmer? Type in FZ to fire Zimmer, or you can type in KZ if you want to keep Mike Zimmer. So I've got 10 different candidates here, different replacement options for Minnesota, knowing this list can and will change in the event that Minnesota does dump the longtime head coach in Mike Zimmer. At number 10, I've got Matt Campbell of Iowa State. And Campbell's had plenty of NFL interest in the past. The Jets and Lions both had significant interest in adding Campbell. He chose to stay at Iowa State. Now they're coming off a not so great year, but what he's done in terms of his track record for the Cyclones is damn impressive. I think the NFL was quite high on him. One dark horse name, by the way, at the college football ranks, about Luke Fickell over at Cincinnati. Just keep an eye out on that name if he wants to make the jump to the NFL. So who do you want the Vikings to hire? I'm going to make this question the pinned comment on today's video, allowing you guys the opportunity to head down to the comments and speak your mind. If you get the ad break here on YouTube, take advantage. It's the pinned comment. Who do you want Minnesota to hire in the event Mike Zimmer gets canned? Number 9 on my list, Dennis Allen of the New Orleans Saints. Now, in general, defensive coaches don't draw the same level of interest, but Allen, who of course is a former failed NFL head coach, I think has done a fantastic job in New Orleans. That defense, I don't believe, has the most talent out there. Now, Allen was not good as the Raiders head coach back almost a decade ago, but I think we're getting closer to him getting a second chance somewhere as an NFL head coach. We'll stick defense here with number 8, a similar coaching candidate here. Todd Bowles has done a fantastic job with the Buccaneers defense. A lot of credit from that perspective, just like Dennis Allen. Also a failed head coach, although those Raiders teams and Jets teams weren't exactly the best option in the end to have the most success in terms of consistent, sustained options there. So I am intrigued here by the option of going after a defensive mind. I'll make this note, though, and we will come back to it in a little bit. Because Mike Zimmer was a defensive-minded coach, I think that means there is a less likely chance that the Vikings themselves pursue another defensive-minded guy. In the event that they do, these are 2 names to unquestionably keep an eye out for. That's Dennis Allen of the Saints, Todd Bowles of the Buccaneers. You can maybe keep a Matt Eberflus in mind, Indianapolis Colts. I'm sure there are other decent defensive coordinator options, but more often than not, when a team fires a defensive mind and then makes the switch, they often look in the offensive coordinator grouping. So number 7 then is Byron Leftwich of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, an offensive mind who I do think has a very real chance of taking over for Bruce Allen here in terms of these of Bruce Arians, taking over for him in the event he retires at some point in the not-too-distant future. So which Bucs coach then would you guys hire? Type in TB for Todd Bowles or BL for Byron Leftwich. There's not really a right or wrong answer from this perspective. Just depends on what type of coach you guys want. So head down to the comments and let me know what you're thinking. Number 6 on this list, Josh McDaniels, the Patriots offensive coordinator. Now, McDaniels has done a great job in New England with Mac Jones this year, and he's been a great OC for several years. I question, though, whether or not McDaniels would leave New England. A, the situation with the Colts a couple years ago left some bad taste in the mouths of NFL programs because you can't have that happening if you're hiring your head coach, although it did work out pretty well for Indy in the end. I think he is the head coach in waiting, by the way, although if Bill Belichick wants to make his son Steve the head coach, then maybe McDaniels jumps ship at that point. In the event that Minnesota does fire Mike Zimmer, we will keep you guys covered with everything you need to know around the coaching search. So hit that big red button and join us for free news and rumors video all season and off-season long here on Minnesota Vikings Now. Number 5, Nathaniel Hackett. I am not as high on Hackett as I think the NFL themselves is, or the group of the NFL, I should say. He is apparently very well regarded by the NFL. He's actually the very rare 3-time offensive coordinator, and he's only 41 years old. Did the job with the Buffalo Bills, then Doug Marrone leaves, so Hackett goes to Jacksonville as that OC, gets fired and blamed for their bad 2018 start. Not sure it was really his fault in the end. He's now the Packers OC, but I'm not sure he's the play caller. He's really not with Matt LaFleur in charge there. So, look, I'll make this note here with Hackett and others. Just because you are a good coordinator or play caller does not mean you're going to be a good head coach. But I think the NFL likes the apparent leadership traits for Hackett. So what type of coach should the Vikings hire? We kind of mentioned this earlier. Spoiler alert, it's only offensive minds the rest of the way. So type in O for it should be an offensive-minded coach, or D for a defensive-minded one. Number 4, Kellen Moore, the Dallas Cowboys offensive coordinator, guided Cooper Rush to a win over Minnesota. I think the Vikings ownership remembers that game pretty damn well. I'll make this note, however. Kellen Moore's stock is a little bit down right now. The past couple games for the Cowboys have not been that great. I haven't loved his play calling. I don't love his running game design, but he's a young, bright, offensive-minded coach, and in general, those guys tend to command interest. I mean, you know, we are less than a year removed from Joe Brady getting 5 head coaching interviews and then getting fired by Carolina. It's kind of crazy, right? Number 3 is Doug Pederson. This could be an interesting route for Minnesota to pursue. Former Eagles head coach, won a Super Bowl, gets fired, but could be a good blend for a team like Minnesota. A lot of this depends on what they do at the general manager spot. Does Rick Spielman stay, or is he fired as well? Pederson could be a good fit in Minnesota if they want to try to win with Kirk Cousins, because Pederson has experience. That could make him a logical match for Minnesota if he still wants to be a head coach, which I do believe is the case. Now, in the event the Vikings job comes open, how good of a job is it? The roster, I think, is in pretty good shape. A lot of this comes down to how do you feel about Kirk Cousins. If he's your guy, I think you're all in. If not, well, you're kind of stuck with a bad contract there. So be honest with me in your evaluation here. How good is the Vikings job? Scale it for me, 1 to 10. Number 2 on my list, Eric Bieniemy, the Chiefs offensive coordinator. Seemingly overdue for a head coaching job, although the offense for KC this year not as good, which could be a problem for him, much like the Kellen Moore situation as well. Bieniemy's got some, I reported off-the-field stuff dating back to his time at Colorado. That could be a red flag. Maybe he hasn't interviewed all that well, coming up with reasons why he has not yet been hired as an NFL head coach. Maybe this is the offseason that finally changes. But at number 1, and I love this idea for Minnesota, Brian Daboll, who I think the Jags should have hired this last cycle. He is the Bills' offensive coordinator. He is my number 1 head coaching option this year. Now, he doesn't run the football a ton. That could be an issue in Minnesota particularly, but the Bills' ground game isn't very good. He adopts early down pass. He gets some semblance of credit for helping out Josh Allen and is the very rare successful outside of the coaching tree of both Bill Belichick and Nick Saban. that feels kind of impactful and important for the Bills. So if you want an offensive mind, Brian Daboll would be my number one target. Now, I only put 10 names on this list. There are plenty of other strong coaching candidates out there. So I want you guys to name a coaching candidate that I did not include on this list. I got 10. There are a lot more. Let me know who you've got your eye on for the Vikings in the event they fire Mike Zimmer.